so much for being here. My name is Chanel with Define Your Glow, and this is an interview I'm doing with a client of mine and friend. And she is going to share personal experiences, both with having readings with myself as well as personal growth. I am an intuitive health medium. I'm also a soul light coach and a spiritual mentor, as well as a published author. And I've been in business now for 11 years. And I met Missy, gosh, what was it, over a year ago? It's been almost 2 years now, hasn't
It,
it?
it's probably been
Yeah.
longer than that, but yes,
Yeah. Time goes so fast,
it
right?
really does.
It does. So Missy and I met. We started out with what we did a mini reading on her diabetes, because what I do as intuitive health medium is illness, and a lot of our physical symptoms manifest from energetically trapped trauma and stress, emotions, all the things that we carry emotionally through our body. And I teach and help clients understand the energetic connection to the physical body, because where the trauma is stored energetically will determine where the illness comes through in the body. And diabetes is one that is a very common illness that I see, and every time I've seen it, it's manifested from energetically trapped stress and trauma and emotions. So Missy is going to share some of her stories, and we're just going to talk today both about her growth, because the reason I invited her is she's done an incredible job with listening to her energy, listening to her physical body, making necessary changes with her habits and behaviors, and just she's done a lot of personal growth. So it's a pleasure to have you here today, Missy. Thank you so much. So go ahead and just share a little bit about you, and we'll just do what we do and talk back and forth, and hopefully people watching will learn a lot from this interview today.
So one of the things is I grew up in a family where we have diabetes in the lineage all the way back. My father has it.
Mm.
I have aunts, uncles, siblings. My father's mother had it. So I have been taught about diabetes as far as habits and what have you since a very young age. I had been tested for it all my life. I did not get diagnosed as a pre-diabetic or diabetic until I was about 45. Around the same time that I started perimenopause. And I
Hmm.
have had a firm belief through this whole process that the two are very linked in the hormone
Yeah.
played a big factor in how and why I was diagnosed. I am currently going to be 55 this year. I'm 54 in the fall. So I've had it for about 10 years. Um, but the funny thing is, and the thing that I have held on to through this process, through Chanel and other intuitive friends that I've gotten readings from, is every time somebody does a reading for me, they don't see the diabetes. It's not
Mm.
attached to me. It is something that I am diagnosed with at this moment, but I don't necessarily attach it to me as a person. I
Hmm.
do not believe in diets. I do not believe in quick fixes. I am not a fan of using a lot of medicine to fix it. Instead, I believe in creating healthy lifestyles and habits. That's what I've
Hmm.
tried to do through the whole process. Um, the funny thing is um, I have a really, and I would say through the majority of the process, except for my recent transition or
Hmm.
up, is I have had a really hate relationship with the disease. I don't want to have it.
Yeah,
I am convinced that I am going to be the person in the family that reverses it. And when I say
absolutely.
reverse it, I don't mean it with just medicine. I mean no medicine, healthy, just live a normal
Hmm.
life, do healthy eating.
And do
Um,
you mind if I interject in there real
sure,
quick?
absolutely.
So, what I want to share, and this is why another reason why I have you on here today is because you're doing what just makes me like jump up and down and clap in my office when clients come through with this. Is you mentioned earlier, you're breaking that cycle on the ancestral lineage, because as an intuitive health medium, when I see people that go, "Oh, I have a history of heart disease in the family," or "Oh, I have a history of diabetes," the way I process that intuitively in my skill set is I have a history of energetically trapped stress and trauma, or a history of behaviors and habits in the family that pass down that disease from parent to child. So when there's a family history of an illness, every time when I do ancestral healings, that family history of that illness is actually a family history of the behaviors that manifest into the stress that manifested into the illness, and it keeps going. So with you and the way you're doing things, you're breaking those habits because you're not leaning on medicinal modalities that just enable the body and allow the disease and block the symptoms. You know what I mean? And,
Yeah.
everybody has their personal choices of what works for them in their health. But so much of what we go through, especially with diabetes, it can be reversed just by talking to what is energetically trapped, which is what you're doing. So, and I love it. So go ahead. I just had to
No,
put that out
and
there because
that's
you're doing
perfect
it.
because one thing we both had talked about before this recording that we wanted to share is oftentimes when one of us is talking, the other one's getting a download, which is exactly
Yeah.
what just happened, is I did. So another thing that I was told to share is that through your healing process, and it is a very personal process, is you have to do what works for you. One of the biggest
Exactly.
things that I was taught by one
I
of,
love it.
I call her my angel. She was my aunt. She was my best friend. She was one of my mom's sisters. When she started sharing her spiritual beliefs with me, is that yes, messages can be transmitted or shared with you, but it's up to you whether or not you how you want that to affect your life. Somebody could give me a message that says this, and I could say, okay, but I don't necessarily believe this. I can change
Hmm.
it. I can make a different decision with regard to my behaviors and my habits. My journey has not just changing my health, changing my eating, and changing whatever. It is almost like a whole body experience. I have worked with a lot of different people, and I'll explain all the aspects that I do at the current time and how those came about. And some of it is also following your gut and being able
Hmm.
to speak your voice. Um, and I'm going to try and make some of this brief because it's a long story. It is a journey. And I
Hmm.
believe that our journey and our purpose has been written before we even made it to this earth. And I am just
Hmm.
trying to live my path and my purpose. I come from a family that has a lineage on both sides, my mother and father. They are still married. They've been married 57 years. My siblings, we have all the same parents. I am from a family of five. I am the middle child.
Hmm.
Um, but in our family dynamic, I was kind of brought up with a pattern, a behavioral pattern in our family where
Hmm.
I wasn't allowed to use my voice. I was the person where I just followed directions without any comments or whatever and just did it. And
Hmm.
so I was kind of the workhorse of the family. Sometimes that still
Hmm.
happens. I also do that in my current career. It is a trait that I do very effortlessly.
Hmm.
It is a blessing and a curse at sometimes because it's
Yeah.
really exhausting.
Yep.
I am an administrative assistant that supports an executive team of six people. And so I'm their go-to person. And sometimes life gets really hectic because it's for a
Hmm.
um, influential company in the Lansing, Michigan area.
Hmm.
So that being said, it is very hard for me sometimes to learn habits and self-care. I
Hmm.
think in my later years in life, I've had to learn that through different trials. So when I say I do a lot of different healing modalities as a whole, um, I have found that the one thing that I need in my healing journey is I need to include my spirituality. If I
Hmm.
don't do that, I get lost in the sauce.
Hmm.
It's part of
Yeah.
me, it's part of my growth, it's part of what makes me thrive and let me be my authentic self.
Hmm.
That being said, Spirit talks to us in many ways. We have to learn how to listen. That was something I
Yeah.
had to learn how to do.
Hmm.
Spirit gives you signs all day long, and that is a skill that sometimes has to be learned. For me, I call it, I had to learn how to let go of control. I am a control
Hmm.
person. I have lived a survivor mentality and have done reactions and habits. I call myself, I retrain my brain. I retrain
Hmm.
response. One of the things I've had to retrain is a flight or fight response
Hmm.
yet when I
And
have to
that's
see a new
exactly where the healing starts, is reprogramming the brain.
is when I see a new doctor, when I have to try
Hmm.
a new medicine, anything. I'm very sensitive to a lot of the medicines. Um,
Hmm.
so I started out at basics. I started out with
Hmm.
my spiritual group and people I trusted.
Hmm.
Chanel was one of those people. She was referred by a dear friend that I grew up with. And we connected immediately. And anytime life gets wonky, Chanel gets a message and says, "Hey,
Yeah.
when are you free? I
Yeah.
need balance again. I need you to tell me
Yeah.
what's going on." She has met my mom. She has met my
Oh,
family
yeah.
members.
Hmm.
She has read them. Another aspect of this I do have a parent. One of my parents is presently um, in kidney failure due to diabetes. So
Yeah.
I have a front row seat to the good and the bad.
Hmm.
My grandmother taught us simple habits with regard to it that I follow to a T. I preach to other people when they ask. It's
Yeah.
very three simple things. Nothing is off limits.
Hmm.
You determine your portion size and you put vegetables with every meal. And it's
Hmm.
as simple as that. Um, and I can tell many stories where she always had dessert. It may only be
Yeah.
one spoonful or whatever, but she created an environment that worked for her. That might not work
Right.
for you, it might. One of my other modalities that I did end up doing that works for me at this present time, because I've seen therapists over the year, is I currently work with a therapist that does
Hmm.
EMDR therapy. Um,
Mm.
very, very helpful. The funny part of this story is she's also spiritual, and she pulled tarot cards for me at my first
Hmm.
reading. And
Oh, that's cool. Especially with EDMR, because that's one of the things too that I love, Missy, with what you've been doing is because when we acknowledge this spiritual presence and we start
yes,
receiving those downloads, the right people start crossing our path. Hence, the EDMR therapist who's spiritual, right? Because there's EDMR, and actually, when I'm done talking to, talk about what EDMR is, because there are people who don't know what that is. I'm fascinated by it, but I think it's amazing that once you started moving forward and you started building momentum, the right people crossed your path. So I can't love that enough that the EDMR person did, or like tarot cards
yes.
at your session. That's
Well,
amazing.
the other funny thing is I have a child that is on my spirit team that has passed over to the other side. And
Oh, uh-huh.
when she came to me, she has the same name as my child. And so
Oh,
I,
wow.
again, Spirit showed me a sign and opened a
Mm-hmm.
door. And they said, "You are ready for this. This is what you need. I need you to
Mm-hmm.
understand that this is a gift we have sent you. So we're going to give her the same name as your child. How can I not
Mm.
pay attention?" Simple things
Yeah.
like that are what have crossed and what have you. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's been wonderful. So EMDR therapy it's almost like a sensory therapy and it helps
Mm-hmm.
you um, work through the trauma, but it also provides you tools that helps you when you're in that anxiety state.
Okay.
Some people respond to like a light therapy. Some it's a sound. For me personally, what calms me down when I'm in the anxious state is touch or sensory. And so what
Mm-hmm.
she has taught me to do, and if I can tip this, is I do a tapping. I call it a butterfly tapping. And
Mm, tapping is amazing.
I have a playlist on my phone, on my Spotify of songs, and you can do any song and you just tap to the beat of the song. And it's
Mm-hmm.
amazing because if you tap this side, it triggers this side of your brain.
Yep.
If you tap
Mm-hmm.
this side, it does this. And it just calms, or it's almost like a rocking that some people do. It
Mm-hmm.
just calms you.
Nice.
I also, in addition to her, I have somebody on my spiritual team that I meet with, like I do Chanel once in a while. It's not really a reading, but I meet with her once a month and we talk
Mm-hmm.
about
Oh,
different things.
nice.
And so I have a
Mm-hmm.
spiritual meeting once a month. I see my therapist twice a month, along with my medical doctors.
That's
I
awesome.
do see a new endocrinologist with
Nice.
regard, and I've only seen her a couple times, but she's amazing. And the other funny thing is, and the thing that I love so much is that, again, signs that I believe
Yeah,
in is
always.
all my previous doctors, and nothing against male doctors, they're fabulous, but they didn't believe in my vision. And
Oh, yeah.
my voice was silenced, saying that I would never be able to reverse this. It's hereditary, and all the patent things that the medical professionals always said.
Mm-hmm.
I have been put on many, many medicines. I have had many, many reactions because I'm very sensitive. We finally found a combination of two, well, actually at the time there was three medicines, but I was not able to go above the introductory dose, which you normally never stay at that dose. But it was
Mm-hmm.
working along with my eating habits and thing and exercise routine and stuff like that. I
Mm-hmm.
start seeing this new one, and her first comment is, oh yeah, we totally are going to reverse this. It was like it wasn't even a question. My first meeting, she looked at my A1C levels because I get them taken before every appointment every 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
And she didn't have a problem with how high they were or anything. She wasn't concerned.
Oh,
And
that's awesome.
she didn't change my medicine. She didn't even touch it, which I'm used to going into an appointment, white knuckling it, anxious. My blood pressure's
Yeah.
high. They're very aware it's going to be high. And, or I cry a day or two beforehand because
Mm-hmm.
my levels go up for no reason,
Yeah.
you know, because when you have the hormones and they can go wonky, spur of the moment,
Mm-hmm.
you don't really have control over it. And I'm a control person.
Right. Which causes stress, which is what causes that to
So it
happen.
causes the
Yeah,
cycle.
it's a
It
cycle.
causes the
Yep.
trauma cycle. So
Exactly.
the funny thing is that for a long time, I had a really hard time embracing the word surrender, saying it, or being able to do it.
Yeah.
I struggled a little bit when I had to learn how to meditate because you have
Mm-hmm.
to release and you have to let go. I now can do that and it's okay. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I can feel the hormones. It's almost my shoulders will get like rocks,
Mm-hmm.
and I can say, okay, I identify it and I can work through it. I do not go on medicine for any anxiety. I have learned to meditate, or I've learned to breathe through it. It never lasts long. I no longer have anxiety attacks like I used to.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'm going to share something I haven't shared with you yet. Just the other day, I was at work, and my one spiritual friend that I work with and sometimes it's people just making simple comments. And to me, again, that's a sign and it helps you grow.
Mm-hmm.
She said, you can be aware of what's coming and the energy that's coming, but you do not have to accept it or hold on to it. You do not have to
Mm-hmm.
absorb. So on the day, I felt for no reason I'm at work and my neck starts turning into rocks and I have this anxiety. I grabbed two post-it notes and I
Mm-hmm.
wrote down a mantra. I did one to myself and I did one to spirit. And my spirit one just said, I receive your message. I do not accept the anxious energy. I release
Mm-hmm.
it and surrender control over the energy.
Mm-hmm.
And I sat there
Nice.
and I breathed and it went away.
Mm-hmm.
And for myself, a big thing is just when you're like that, remind yourself you're safe. There is
Mm-hmm.
always one of the things I had to learn is there is a purpose for the fight or flight response,
Mm-hmm.
but my body has a programmed reaction for it to
Right.
show up when it's not really, I'm not in danger.
Exactly. Well, the thing is too, when your neck, because so your neck is where you hold everything because it's your throat chakra, right? Because of
Yes.
your voice
Yes.
being suppressed, not being heard. So it makes sense. So when you feel those rocks, you're understanding that it's a trauma response because your brain, well, the brain, when you're in fight or flight, or you're reprogramming the brain out of survival patterns, it
Hmm.
sometimes will bring stress to the surface. And the overall goal with the brain is to find safety. And that's why what gets us into fight or flight. So you're doing a fantastic job in acknowledging it. Okay, I feel the bricks in my neck because the natural reaction that I'm used to is to suppress my voice, carry the anxiety in my throat and my chest because I wasn't heard, I didn't feel accepted, like all those emotional responses to whatever was going on in your environment, 20 years ago. But your energy is still, and your energy and your muscle memory are still remembering. You know what I mean? So that's a fantastic way to write down the mantra,
Yeah.
one for you and one for spirit, to say, yeah, I feel this, I get it, it's not mine anymore. I'm in a completely different environment. And it's almost kind of like inner child work. Because when I work with clients, I'll do that. I'll be like, talk to the inner child. Let her know she's good to go. She's safe. She can rest. So I love that you did that, that you're like, okay, sticky notes, write it down. So it takes a lot for a person to get to that point where something is like neck pain, or just how you called it, like feeling the rocks in your neck, and go, okay, I recognize this. I can't love that enough, Missy. I think that's awesome. That's really, really cool.
Well, and I had to find my team of support, and they just started appearing, which told me I'm ready for this change that
Mm-hmm.
I felt comfortable enough with to be able to release and be vulnerable. One of the things that I did have to work on with my EMDR therapist is trauma situations. I had to have a session where I sat there and talked to the little girl and explained
Yeah.
how it feels in that I still carried those feelings in certain situations and what have you. Um, I have had experiences throughout my life as a single mom and what have you in relationships where I was a survivor for a long time. That strength is what got me and kept me afloat to where I am, and is also
Mm-hmm.
part of some of the skills that I have that I do so effortlessly. But
Right.
I don't need it now. I had to get to a point in my healing where I learned that you don't need somebody else to be your safety net. And the fact that I can say this is kind of a
That's
joy
amazing.
for me. It's
Mhm.
huge.
It's giving me goosebumps to hear you say
That
it.
I am my own safety net. Even
Mm-hmm.
doing this podcast, I was telling Chanel I had a download as we were talking before we started it. This is a healing experience for me. And the reason why I agreed to do it and not filter is that I am finally being able to use my voice. I am finally being able
Mm-hmm.
to tell my story, and that I'm okay with telling my story. I don't worry about being judged. I don't worry about anything because it's my experience that I'm sharing in hopes that it'll help somebody else. But
Mm-hmm.
the people that I work with, I have my medical doctors, I have my therapist, I have my spiritual friend that I meet with. I also have worked with a friend in my spiritual tribe that has done somatic yoga. I've done that
Oh,
too,
nice.
where I add it to my toolkit so that if it's a day that I don't have the energy to work out, I always do my yoga on my bed so that
Mm-hmm.
I can lean into it, and I put on my certain music off of YouTube or whatever that puts me into my spiritual space. Because again, she had to teach me the way my yoga works for me and my breathing is I have to connect with spirit. It helps me
Mm-hmm.
release stuff. So I do workouts very not very long workouts. I don't work out for
Mm-hmm.
2 hours a day because
Right.
when you get older, I find things that are short and you do it throughout the day.
Yeah,
I track
absolutely.
my steps so that I keep moving. I learn what works for my body and what doesn't. I learn what
Mm-hmm.
work for my body and what doesn't. Um, I'm really getting close to the healthier food. You can ask Chanel. I'm almost there.
Yeah.
Love my Diet Coke, but with some
Oh
stress,
my gosh, Diet Coke.
the little Diet Coke still sneaks in. But I
Yeah, that was my staple in banking, Diet Coke. Oh my gosh, that was absolutely when I was. It took. I mean, I haven't had Diet Coke in years now, but yeah, Diet
yeah.
Coke that's a common one.
But
It's just so satisfying.
it also takes balance. It takes you forgiving yourself. It takes you giving yourself
Exactly.
grace. I can tell you at my last appointment with the endocrinologist, I walked in, I cried for 2 days beforehand. I walked in, she's like, "How are you doing?" And I was honest. I said, "I'm having a hard time loving myself this week."
Hmm.
And the reason why I know she's the right person is she's like, "Okay, what are your concerns? What were you struggling with?" And I rattled them off. And she immediately says, "Okay, I need to explain stuff to you." And she literally, knowing that I'm
Mm, I know exactly what
a
what she
little,
did. She went
I
down each step.
know. I she went through and she said, I said, my parent is in end stage kidney failure. It's like having a front row seat to what
Mm-hmm.
could happen. She said, that was one of them she addressed. She says, you have no signs that you will ever have that. You don't do the habits. You have to have A1Cs at
Mm-hmm.
this level for years. You've only ever been at that level for 3 months in any of your records. You won't get it.
Yeah.
She says, none of your So she took the worry away and she
Yeah.
replaces it and she believes in my dream. I don't
I love
have
that.
the time or the energy to invest as I'm doing this journey and have such a goal to invest in people that don't believe in my dream. You are
Mm-hmm.
wonderful people. I will give you love and blessings and send you on your way, and you do you, boo. But I need people that believe in me because that's what I need for a tribe to get to where I want to be.
Yeah, and that's a huge one too. You brought up so many valid points, especially the biggest one. And I just made a video on this actually. If you want to find out who your tribe is, grow. And that will reveal everything about you and your environment immediately.
Yes.
And so with your growth, it brought in the right people and you set that, it's almost like you set that standard for yourself, but you also put it out there you've made space for the right people to come to you and I just love how you worded that. It's such a healthy approach to what you're doing because the thing is with healing and growth and not just emotional healing, but physical healing and just coming into alignment, both energetically and physically. That's where you really have to be raw and honest with yourself and look at what you have done, but look at it from a state of love. So like when you had that really rough week, with your dad and everything that's going on, and then you went to endocrinologist and she was able to explain everything and remove that fear. That's the right people. So it's like the right people are around you now, and I love that you've made it very clear, not only with yourself but with the universe, that I'm only going to give my time and energy to people who believe in my dream. That is so powerful, Missy, to just be like, I'm only giving my time and energy to people who believe in my dream. That's it. That's like next level. So I love that. I think that's amazing.
But part of the healing is also believing that you deserve that dream and making sure you understand
Good
what
point.
even if it's certain elements of your dream, what your dream
Mm-hmm.
looks like. Because one of the things Chanel reminded me of is I also manifested my current job. I've
Totally.
had
Yeah, you sure
jobs in the
did.
past, where my skills were not respected
Yeah.
in the way they should be. They were almost taken advantage of. I've had people that I report to that um cause problems
Hmm.
with my mental health, and I had to
Hmm.
finally say, oh, I I don't deserve this every day. I don't, we all
Hmm.
have to provide for ourselves. I have a child, he's 21, that still lives at home, but I had a household that I am the sole provider for. And so you can't forget that. You still, in balancing spirit, you still have to live in the real physical world. And
Yeah.
so I
Hmm.
decided I'm just going to put it out there. I'm going to start applying for jobs, but I deserve better. I'm done. I started pulling my energy back from the interactions, which
Hmm.
helped, but made her mad. And then I started applying in my specific job that I have right now kind of fell in my lap, but it felt like
Yeah.
a company that I heard about and heard wonderful things about because I knew people that worked there and had worked there for long careers. In my company, the norm is for an employee to have 20 years plus of service. It's a hometown
Hmm.
company. I love being a part of it. For my specific position, there were 100 candidates that I beat out. I did
Oh,
not
wow, Missy.
understand the intensity of who I would be supporting and the level of it until my second interview. And the first person they introduced me to was the head of the company, which is
Oh,
one of the
wow.
people that I support. And so for me, I am very grateful every day that I was able to land in this position. But at the same token, I have had to heal as I've been in this
Hmm.
job. I haven't been there quite a year yet, But one of the things I had to heal is that I had to learn that my current boss is not, I'm not going to get the same behavior as my previous boss.
Right.
My son created a beautiful phrase and he says, you're learning to live in a healthy work environment. And sometimes
Mm-hmm.
that is also part of the healing process, is learning to accept and understand what healthy looks like and that you are
Exactly.
no longer in survival mode. And by no means am I done with my healing. I've made great strides. I've found
Yeah,
what
you have.
for me right now. Um, but as my endocrinologist says, we're in for the long haul. It's the long run.
Hmm.
And you have to be patient with yourself. You have to give yourself grace. I still have days that I break down bawling, but again, my son's fabulous at reminding me that that's part of the healing and emotions aren't good or bad. Sad and
Hmm.
happy aren't good or bad. They're just flowing and you let it flow.
They're, hmm.
And it's okay to release the energy and cry, which I was not brought up as that was an okay thing to do. That's
Hmm.
another habit that I have to retrain. But I'm sharing everything I'm learning with my family. I have a child that doesn't carry some of the habits that
Hmm.
and the judgmental things that I grew up with. And so if
Hmm.
nothing else, I my goal is to change it for him
Yeah,
because really
absolutely.
it's really important because he's had some of the struggles that I had growing up with certain
Hmm.
people in his life and I can't save him from his journey, but I can love him through it and I can teach him to
Hmm.
figure out what works for him so that he is
Hmm. Yeah, well, and it's great too because the part of the other thing with your growth, the work environment always will mirror childhood if there's opportunity for growth. So I feel like the previous work environment was doing a lot of mirroring, and as you started to make the connection, just how you talked about earlier with understanding what it means to actually be happy, because I will
Mhm.
have clients that they don't even know what happy is anymore. They have
Mhm.
spent so much time pleasing others. And I'll say something like this in session, like start with simple pleasures, and they'll be like, I don't know what that means. I'll be like, well, start with a cup of coffee and your favorite cream, and they'll say something like, well, my husband doesn't let me drink coffee. And so they stopped doing things that they enjoy all the way down to their coffee. So I think it's, you brought up a really valid point that you have to redefine your happiness, because sometimes there are people out there that the chaos, that's their joy because it's all they know. It's also their safety. So I think it's really great that you put it out there. Like, you have to redefine your happiness. And I feel like as you started doing that, that's when the door started opening for a different work environment, because that one no longer served you. And it was mirroring things that you didn't need to carry anymore. And you were making those connections, and it gradually shifted you as you started to realize, wait a minute, I don't deserve this, even though this feels normal. And the brain's thinking, okay, well, this feels normal, so it's safe. You're able to be like, no, brain, it's not safe. And the intuition, which is the solar plexus chakra, which is where our identity is, that's where we tap into that gut feeling. And so it was like your gut started doing some more talking, which is why it shifted you into that awareness, which I love it. I think it's amazing.
My gut is very loud most
Yeah.
days. Yes.
Yeah.
But
Right.
and it might be something as simple as you put, for me, because I'm a sensory person, you put your feet in the bathtub. You put your
Hmm.
hands in cold
Oh, I
water.
love
You
soaking
go
my feet in ice
outside
water.
and you put your bare feet in the grass if you have a yard.
Absolutely.
You know, it in
Hmm.
simple. One of the things that people for years have asked me to do is sit in silence and you just listen. And
Hmm.
for me, that's a very hard thing to do.
There are a
Um,
lot of people that can't do that. They get so anxious.
I have had to teach myself how to do it, um, because it's also part of meditating, is you have to go into
Hmm.
that Zen state where you can calm your body and you can just release control. Um, I do often use the word control. And I have certain people that I work with don't like that and say I should rephrase it, but that was my identity for a long time.
Hmm.
That was
Right.
again the survival technique, but by no means is life sunshine and roses every day. I can tell you last Friday I crashed. I
Hmm.
had a week of a lot of expectations at work. I walked into it yesterday at work and came home and almost crashed again. And
Hmm.
um, this is how I can tell I've broken the generational patterns
Hmm.
is my son seriously did a simple act. that helped ground me. He's very good at sensing what I need.
Oh,
And
that's cool.
he said, okay, let's break this down. He says,
Hmm.
what did you do on Monday? And I rattled off probably 15 things that I had to take care
Hmm.
of at work, intense things, not little things.
Hmm.
And he goes, okay, what'd you do on Tuesday? And I rattled off again, a whole handful of things. He goes, what about Wednesday? And he went through every day up until the current day we were at. And he's like, what did you do this morning while you were at work? Because I ended up having to come home sick in the afternoon.
Hmm.
And I told him, and he says, so where in that whole thing that you just described did you have time to relax and feedback
Right.
to yourself? He
Hmm.
says, no wonder you're crashing, and it's okay to take a day and do nothing. And
Hmm.
for me to refresh, I had to spend 2 to 3 days on the couch of
Right.
typing on my
I
phone
love
and
it.
watching the shows that I need to catch up on, reading a book.
Yeah.
And I'm still working on not feeling bad or beating myself up for having to do that or what have you. Those transitions, as I'm learning to live in a state of thriving instead of
Hmm.
surviving, is a work in progress. Um,
Hmm.
I have just as many things that I'm working on that I have overcome. And so that's another thing to remember is that as you listen to people that you're learning from and what have you, nobody's got it all. Nobody's handling it. There's always something to work on, and they're not better, worse, what have you than you are.
Hmm.
It's just take the pieces that work for you. For me, I watched one of Chanel's videos the other day and I was like, ooh. And I took that piece that she taught me, just watching her video on Facebook. And
Hmm.
again, it's in my toolbox.
Hmm.
And sometimes that's how it happens and your toolbox works for you. It doesn't
Hmm.
need to work for anyone else. If you want to share it with somebody and they're welcoming and they receive it, fine. But it works for you. My
Hmm.
friends that are in my spiritual tribe that I've grown up with, the reason why we're so good friends is we're different.
Hmm.
Each have different things that work for us that we do. They know the authentic me and they love me
Hmm.
to it, but they also call me on my stuff when I need it. And it's okay because I trust them. I know them. I've grown up with them and I can handle it. I know it's coming from
Hmm.
a place of love. But
Right.
it's a combination of all of that. And it's
Yeah.
nice. I'm sharing what I learned with my mother and other people in my family that are thriving in it and enjoying
Hmm.
it right now. So,
Yeah, and I think it's great too that you mentioned another thing that I get that is so common is feeling guilty for taking care of yourself. The world in general, I feel like just in society is like we feel like it's selfish to take care of ourselves or we'll go the other extreme and do like a really expensive spa day and call it self-care and it's like well it's self-care but it's a luxury but every day is a self-care day. You should take care of yourself every day and not feel guilty. And when there's guilt, usually the guilt resonates with abandonment because it's like we have to abandon ourselves in order to feel whole, but we don't abandon others, right? So it's when we start taking care of ourselves that guilt is that abandonment that we have felt in the past where we wanted people to care for us and they didn't. You know what I mean? And so when you release that guilt and just enjoy taking care of yourself and process what's happening because you're right, healing it's not this kumbaya of oh flowers and roses. It's the hardest thing people will do,
yeah,
but
it's
it's
very
also
hard.
the right, but it's the most rewarding, because people will ask me stuff about different events with like my attack with my neighbor or my house flooding, and it's like because I understand there's a process and like what you're doing is you're understanding each process to each thing that you're doing and you're making
Mhm.
so many connections. I love it. And then like your
Well,
son is walking you through stuff too, even so he's learning. It's a chain reaction. It's amazing.
and a lot of times, like the world as a whole right now, I feel is extremely critical, and you can find
Mm-hmm.
that anywhere.
100% so
But
much.
sometimes my joy in the day, in my self-care, could simply be going out and spreading kindness. I have
Yeah.
examples where you go to the grocery store and the cashier or something is kind of like, oh, I'm sorry it's taking so long. And I simply look at him and say, you know what? It's okay. I have all the patience in the world. You do
Yeah.
you. I'm good. I hope you
Hmm.
have a good day. And I had one time I interacted with a lady in the grocery store, and by the time I was done, I said a kind word to her and she wanted a hug. She's like, "Can I get a hug from you?" And I'm like, "Sure." It's just, it's the positive interactions. And my mom was with me and she goes, "Oh my God, I can't believe this. You just did that 3 times, three different people." I said, "Yeah, because I'm spreading kindness and they need it." And
Hmm.
how you show up to a space matters. But
Hmm.
it's okay to have bad days. It's okay to have down days.
Hmm.
It's okay to
It
have,
really is.
I have chocolate in my desk on a regular.
Oh,
And not a hard
I
limit
don't. I
because
don't eat
some days,
chocolate at all.
some days that's the solution. And
I
that might
love
be the
chocolate.
little thing that you give to yourself that
Oh yeah.
lets you feel good. It
Hmm.
might be going for a walk and getting the fresh air. There's a lot of different things. And so just find what works
Yeah.
for you and just
Yeah.
do your best to love yourself. I can't every day, but I try.
Yeah, yeah, and it's true, right? And I love how you said that. Just each person has to do their best because no two people heal the same. Everybody heals
Mhm.
differently, and we all have our own energy frequency, we all have our own cell contract, and we all have our own stress and trauma that we've been carrying, and we're working on letting go. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think it's really cool how you did everything, and I really appreciate you doing this because you brought up so many good points, especially just with how critical everybody is right now, and you just making those conscious efforts out in public to just spread joy and be there for people. And I just had this very similar experience of, oh my God, I'm so sorry, seeing like, oh my God, I'm sorry. And I was like, I got nothing but time. Like, and even if I was late, I wouldn't care. I'd be like, I got nothing but time. And I would text the person, because right away when someone else is having stress and they come to you, oh my God, I'm so sorry, if you react negatively, now it becomes your stress. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So when you stay in that state of positivity, it keeps them in their stress state, but they attach to your energy because they feel your positivity. Because the minute you don't react and go, well, why are you taking so long? Blah, 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 and instead you come from a space of love, they feel that and it helps them go, oh, thank God. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's so many life experiences that I look back on and think, man, I wish when I was apologizing for something that, yeah, I think like with waiting tables, I almost feel like everybody in the world should wait tables. For at least everybody should wait tables. You learn so much
Right.
about people, right? And there's so many times I'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And the person would be upset. And now how I understand energy, and I've been doing this for as long as I have, I look back on some of those memories and I think, man, I wonder what would have happened that day if that man, instead of screaming and cussing at me, would have said, "Hey, no problem." It's something that simple. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it
Or
really
if
changes like just the overall experience. You know what I mean?
or if you would have done one of your responses like, "Dude, it's okay. I'll pay for your meal. I hope you have a good," just
Yeah,
give them a positive response where they don't expect it because they've had you don't know what they're coming to
yeah,
face with. But the thing, like you said, the thing is, is if you let their behavior bother you, then you're absorbing it instead of
yep,
observing it. It's
exactly.
okay. There are a lot of people that are in my life. I'm not a big fan of holding on to relationships once I'm done. I am a Scorpio, true
Yeah,
blue, true
yeah.
blue. Um,
I love
and
it.
I can be kind, but I sense things before I even like walk into a room, or
Yeah, for
I
sure.
can, yeah. Um, we don't need to get into all that, but
Yeah.
um, so it's important. One thing I struggle with, or I have to constantly be reminded, as I was in the mantras that I created, is a lot of people that are helping me heal remind me you don't have to absorb it. I don't have to take care of everybody. I'm learning to create boundaries. Again, that's a skill. And a
It
lot of
is.
the people that are able to do this, I'm so jealous of people that do this naturally, and that are really good at letting stuff roll off their shoulders. That's not me. Um, but you learn, and it's amazing. And hopefully in your tribe you have somebody that when you do it, or when you do the good thing, they point it out to you. I do, and I
Hmm.
appreciate it every time because that tells me what I need to do in the next time when I'm struggling. It tells you, it shows you, and validates that you are making progress and you are doing the right thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. It absolutely does because you know too that if you're vibrate if you're noticing like toxic people coming into your space repeatedly, it's like, oh, what am I doing? That's me,
Mhm.
that's not them. And I still every now and then I'll catch something and go, why'd that come to me, or why did that person come to me? Wait a minute. Okay, you know what because you when you understand energy, and that's where when I teach it, I'm like, everybody just needs to learn how to read energy, because communication would be better, and it would really help people hold themselves accountable to them
Wouldn't
because
it be
of who
wonderful
they.
if we had a
I
world where everybody just knew that and you could just be like,
know.
hey, I
Right.
feel your energy today. Nope,
Yeah, I
I'll
got
talk to
your
you
vibe. It's
tomorrow.
all good.
Call me back when your energy's more balanced.
Seriously. Yeah. Well, it's like that man in banking. That was one of my first experiences, the one I share in my book about that customer in banking that was so angry. I will
Mhm.
never forget him ever, because when the way he came in, and I had only been in the bank for a couple days, and he came in guns loaded, angry. And I was like, there's got to be more to that. And it took weeks of meeting and talking to him for his story to come out. And that was one of those times where I was like, man, we really do all have our own story. We really are carrying some baggage, because that was one hell of a broken man. So even to write that story, it was like, because he was years ago in baking. Gosh, that would have been back
Mhm.
2010 probably was when that happened. So here I am now in 2020, whatever, writing my book and writing that story. And I'm like, man, I remember every single visit, because it wasn't so much like, well, I'm going to show him. It was like, I just need him to open up so he feels and knows he's okay. I just want to feel okay. You know what I mean? And it wasn't even about the
Yeah.
personality or his behaviors. It was his energy and how broken it felt. I knew there was a story. You know what I mean? And sure enough, when, his story finally came out, it was like, there it is. You know what I mean? And I even went into the manager and I was like, look, I got to tell you this. Like, I have to share this with you, and suddenly we all started to see him differently. He wasn't just that jerk, customer that came into the bank and screamed at everybody. You know what I mean? Now we were
Yeah.
able to be like, oh, okay. Because we really don't know who is carrying what and why, and there's always a story there. You know what I mean? So it really is interesting. But you've brought up so many good points today, just with everything, of your journey and how much you've learned about yourself, how much you've learned about your ancestors, right? Because just the illness of diabetes teaches you so much about why it's been on the ancestral lineage for so long. You know what I mean?
Well, and I think even though it's the condition or the disease is on my father's side, I still totally believe that there are aspects from my mother's side of the family that
Yeah.
also contribute to it. Um, but I have to say, just giving you your props, that if people get readings with you, sometimes the thing that I value so much is that there are often times in spirit sends it through when you need to hear it. But
Mm-hmm.
things, as you're experiencing things in life, you don't always pay attention to what's happening in their pivotal moments. My last reading I had with you, she brought up something that happened when I was in college. And I literally had to have a talk with my mom about it. And my mom identified it right away. And she's like, nope, that's when this happened. And I was like, oh my gosh, it totally did.
Mm-hmm.
My father was taking me back to college after a weekend home. We were driving down the highway and a semi in front of us had a piece of it fly off the semi. It was in the shape of like a rotor, so it was very
Mm-hmm.
thick and it was about this circular and it flew off of it into our windshield right where my head was and my face was.
Oh, wow.
I was looking down studying, so my head was up because it fractured it. But the police officer, when he found the object, said, had it come straight, you wouldn't be
Mm,
here instead of hitting flat. And one of my grandfathers had stepped in to make sure I was safe. And first of all, the grandfather that stepped in, I never met in my lifetime.
mm-hmm.
He died when I was like 3 months old. So I only know him as an image, but the fact that he did that or is part, is now a very
Absolutely. Yeah.
strong part of my spiritual team. He's always been there, but I can hear him now is huge. And it was
Mm-hmm.
something I needed at that time because I could make the connection and share it with my mother because it's her father. And she needed that. She needed his energy, and now she's able to pull him in and talk to him regularly and know that he's helping her right now through her trials. So
Yeah.
the connections, life is all about connections.
Hmm.
I firmly believe that people in spirit that are meant to be with you are going to show up when you need it. Sometimes it's just sitting and listening or paying attention. Um, I personally talk through my stuff. I'm a very verbal processor, and all of my
Yeah,
friends know I
right.
just start talking and rattling, and sometimes I gotta reel me in. But
I love
that's
it.
how I figure it out, and I have
Yeah.
conversations with people that are in the experiences too, and
Hmm.
that see me and know what makes up me, and they're like, "Oh yeah, but this happened. This is what
Hmm.
that taught you," and I was like, "Oh yeah, it did."
Yeah.
So,
And it is. It's great too to have that access to the grandfather because people don't realize death isn't the ending, it's a connection. So
yeah.
when someone does pass, you absolutely have access to them. I mean, my dad still leaves me signs just literally just about every day. And
Yes.
they're like you can't miss them. Like just stuff that I'm going through like a day before yesterday was the video I made how some days with my insurance stuff, some days are up, some days are down. The other day it was just stressful and annoying. And so I was just like this is just stupid. Ugh. So I'm like looking up, trying to find a contractor to build my house. The last three numbers of his phone were 444. I was like, "Hi, Dad. Okay, I'll chill. I got it. Whatever. Thanks." You know
Right.
what I like? You know what I mean? So
Right.
I was like, "Hi, Dad. I got it. Cool. All right. I'll be fine." You know what I mean?
You'll be
So
sitting there
it's
having your little freak out, and all of a sudden, 111 or 1 2 3 4. You're like,
totally.
okay, I hear you. Shoo. And you take
Yeah.
5 minutes and you just do cleansing breaths. And you're like, okay, I get it. I'll calm
Yep.
down.
You
Yeah,
said your little freak out. It's so real.
absolutely.
It really
Absolutely.
100%. I do every now and then I'm like, okay, here we go. I gotta just breathe. You know what I mean? Because it is. We're in a very the world's awakening globally. A lot of people are awakening and they're seeing things and experiencing things that they're like, what is that? And why does that make sense? Even though I don't know what it is. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or like people get downloads and they'll be like, it all makes sense, but as soon as I try to put it into words, I can't put it into words. And I'm like, that right there, that's exactly how it feels. Sometimes you just can't put it into words, but yet it totally makes sense. And that's how it works. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
I think it's really cool with everything that you're doing and the connections that you're making. And it is hard to retrain the brain because for me, retrain I had to retrain my brain because for me, it wasn't necessarily about us suppressing my voice because I can, put myself out there, but it was that the when I disagree with somebody, but like a friend, like I didn't understand. It took me forever, and this just takes me back way back into like the banking era. But like if I had a friend that disagreed, I didn't know how to say, "Hey, I don't agree with that," and then just have like a conversation about it. It was like I felt like, well, maybe am I not supposed to be their friend? Like we're supposed to just get along, and it was this weird habit of like not being like I felt like I couldn't give my opinion or I wasn't a good friend. You know what I mean? And it took a while to retrain my brain. Like, no, you tell your friends how you're feeling. That is friendship. That's what you do. You know what I mean? So it's
For
weird
me,
things
that's,
out there.
yeah, for me, that's learning to be your authentic self and being okay with
Exactly.
being your authentic self. I work for a company right now where that was
Exactly.
the first thing that surprised me is everyone's like, well, how do you like it? And I'm like, everybody's so kind. I can show up to work every day and I can be my authentic self. I
I
have
love that
a boss
so
that
much.
looked at me and she says, well, I figured out this weekend that you're a verbal processor. And if I just let you talk through it, you'll figure it out and you'll connect the dots.
Oh,
And
that's
I was like,
amazing.
do I pinch myself
Heck
that I have
yeah, for
somebody that I
real.
work for that takes the time to invest in, sorry if I got really loud, takes the
No,
time
not at
to
all.
invest in me as a person and cares
Hmm.
enough, it's a give and take. And, there are times when I'm there and I'm taking care of things so she can do what she needs to do and she does the same for me. And your well-being matters, I guess, is the thing. You
Absolutely.
as a
Yeah.
person matters. And it's just beautiful to be able to experience it. And I hope other people get the opportunity to experience that in a lifetime. But
Hmm.
part of it is is feeling like you deserve it and then going
Hmm.
and seeking out and creating a life that works for you.
Yeah, exactly. Creating a life that works for you. That's exactly right. Like that's absolutely how it works. I can't love that enough. So I really appreciate you coming on and putting all the words of wisdom that you put out there. I hope when people read this, I'm like, save it, save this book because you've put out so much information that really helps people get a grasp of that everybody can do this. They just have to put that first step forward. And it's always the first step is the hardest. And then
Mhm.
after that, you build momentum and it gets better. But it's that first step, and you don't have to have a plan. You don't have to have control, right? You brought up control. You don't have to have control. And in fact, the less control, the better, because you're more in flow, right? Control is just a mindset. It really is. Like we don't have control. You know, I'd like with just like with
It's
my house flood
survival
or like
behavior. Hmm.
yeah, it really is. It's I made a video about it a couple weeks ago, I think, and it was talking about with how control we create it as a mindset to I try to feel safe because we feel like we're hanging on to everything, so we're okay. And it's like, well, we may think we're hanging on to stuff, but anything we don't need will eventually be removed if we hang on too tight, you know? So, and it really validates a lot. So you brought up some really good points tonight, Missy. I really appreciate so much that you brought up. You shared some really personal stories and experiences. You talked about downloads too, which I think is really important because we all receive them. It's just a matter of being ready to listen. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I just can't say enough how much I appreciate you being on here. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up and thank you to the guests being here. And when I stop this, you and I will chit chat for a second because we
Yeah.
always do. Like, like I
We
can't just
do.
hang up. We got to
Right.
talk. But no, but I really appreciate everybody being here for the time watching this interview today. If you have any questions or you want to schedule a session with me, you can go to my website, defineyourglow.com. You're welcome to email me with any questions. Chanel, SHANELL at defineyourglow.com. My book is called Collision of Me, and that is available on Amazon. And it's if you're international and you're watching this, you're not in the continental US, you can purchase it at my international bookstore, which is www.books.by define your glow. And that way, if you're in like Australia, New Zealand, or outside of the US, you can purchase my book. So thank you so much for being here, and we will talk to you next time.